Hey, what's up? Today I wanted to throw my 2 cents in on the whole Overwatch drama with the PvE. I do think that my opinion is slightly different than other people's, mainly because I'm coming from my professional background being a marketer and a salesman, though not too much differently. I'm a gamer first. If you like this content, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. Reaction content isn't my primary content. It's not something that I'm going to be doing very frequently. I think the whole Overwatch scandal is pretty crazy. So let's go ahead and get started with this reaction. Mind you, this is the first time that I'm watching this video. So let's see what it's all about and why everybody's having a big consumption over it.
What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. A YouTuber friend of mine, Sir Swag, released a video where he outlines quotes from an anonymous source that he has from Blizzard Entertainment, a developer that knows the inner workings of what was going wrong on Team 4, the dev team that was working on Overwatch 2 and the now canceled PvE. I reached out to Sir Swag as a precaution to say, hey, bro, is this legit? Yes, it sure is. He has my confidence and trust. We'll break down the details of the leak, and as well, I think this illuminates a lot of the growing story arc of Jeff Kaplan leaving and the inner turmoil with the company. The anonymous source says the cancellation was 1000% an upper management executive issue. It was all about.
So I called it when they announced Overwatch 2 and then they released the PvP side of it. I actually, a good friend of mine that I play Destiny with, that Scrub Life, was really into Overwatch at the time, and she was really pumped about the PvE aspect of it all when it was announced. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought it would never happen. They were making so much money off of just basically re-releasing the same game but removing one character from each match, or I guess two, because you have a team of two, 5 on each side, making it 5v5 instead of the 6v6. But essentially what we got was the exact same game, but they took away a lot of the things that made the purchase of Overwatch 1 valuable, making it much more battle pass heavy and making it so that those people that they were giving all these free heroes to no longer get those free heroes because they purchased the first game, and this is now Overwatch 2. So it was really a design decision to get onto that live service gameplay model that you see games like Fortnite do so well in. But that's neither here nor there. When I thought about it, and I thought about the origins of Overwatch being this massively multiplayer online game called Titan, or Project Titan, they could not figure out how to get it to a point where it was fun, where the PvE side of things was fun. And so they scrapped it and they kept the PvP and they made Overwatch out of it, which turned out to be very fun, being a hero shooter. Until, you know, what have you, different things happen, and they threw a bunch of different things in there that was, or like new characters coming out and really just messing up the meta, messing up the base gameplay. You don't have the freedom that you do in like Team Fortress 2, basically. Anyways, so they re-released Overwatch 1 and called it Overwatch 2. So the PvE was coming soon, that they're going to have all these different live action things and talent trees that you can progress in live action, live service, PvP or PvE game. And that part of the game would have pulled development away from PvP, which is where people were already spending all their money. And it also gave them a free go to say, hey, cool, we're going to redo everything here on the PvP side so that we can now make more money in the long run than we did in Overwatch 1, and freshen up the gameplay a little bit. The PvE side of things, you have to think about it this way, is how do you balance the two? And this is something that World of Warcraft runs into as far as issues with its balance, is that everything is balanced around the PvE. PvE comes first, then the PvP. While they do add some things here and there from the PvP. So what I'm trying to get at right now is that you would not only take what fans love, the PvP side of the game, and take development and put it into this PvE side of the game that isn't guaranteed to make you as much money. And you're adding these talent trees. Now, with every time that you release a new hero into the game, you not only have to make the hero feel good in PvP, but now you have to create an entire talent system around that hero and make sure that that talent system is balanced so that that hero doesn't negate other heroes in the PvE section. So if you are, say, a main of one character, you don't feel bad for playing that character because this new hero was released, which is already an issue that they have in the PvP side of things. So I can definitely see why they would cancel the PvE. It is upsetting that they did that. It is very upsetting that they canceled the PvE after promising. And that's the problem that the game development industry has with its marketing, is that it always over promises. It always makes promises. It doesn't say, hey, yeah, we're trying to do a PvE side of things. Or a PvE game here, or we're trying to do this with our game. It always comes out and says, yeah, we're doing it. It's a promise. We got it going. It's coming out. Expect it at this time. With the fact that it didn't release with the PvP, led me to believe that they were having trouble behind the scenes regardless. Anyways, back to the video.
About profit margins, that they were looking at a game like Diablo Immortal, which was making $2 million.
See, profit margins
a day, and that changed the expectations for the suits. The PvE was looked at as increasingly irrelevant and not going to earn money in the long term. Keep in mind that just the live service multiplayer game that they already had all of a sudden turned on a new revenue stream just by adding a battle pass and cosmetics. So you can see why higher executives would look at that and say, why do we want to invest in making this big, complicated, expensive game when we can make money in easier ways? So
it makes sense from a business standpoint. At that point, instead of creating the PvE in this game, as much fun as this game is, I would say it would make more sense to create an IP around the PvE, which I'm sure that Overwatch 2 is supposed to be that IP, but creating a game that is not. So the original intent of this game was that it was going to be an MMO. That failed because they couldn't figure it out, so they made the PvP. The whole game has been built around these PvP matches. That's what this whole game is. And now we're going to take this PvP game and try and make it into a PvE game. And I'm not sure if you've played the older PvE stuff that they've done in the past. It doesn't feel good. It's fun for like a little, hey, here's a break from the normal stuff that we do, the normal go in there and shoot other players that we do. But it wasn't like groundbreaking fun. And I think that is an issue that they've had from the get-go, from the beginning of Overwatch's inception. I definitely think they would have sunk a lot of cost into the PvE. I do think that they would have made their money back, but they would have sunk a lot of cost in it. And then the long term, when you're looking years into the future, the long term of that PvE would have been a detriment to the PvP, which is what everybody loves.
These claims stand to reason to me, but it gets worse. During the pandemic, there was slowed production, and as progress got worse and they struggled to meet deadlines, there began a vicious cycle that was doomed to fail. The leak talks about talent leaving or getting reorganized to other projects, but also keep in mind that there was the lawsuit, which maybe some employees left due to protest, but as the production got worse, they actually pulled resources from the team, which was a doomed to fail strategy. And a little bit at odds because the team is always publicly talking about how they've expanded the team, doubled the size of the team. But no offense.
So there is a weird philosophy about tech companies and doubling the size of the team. The more people that you add to the team, the longer it takes to develop, because it takes, and this is true many times along a lot of verticals in businesses is that it takes about 6 months for people to get caught up. It takes 6 months for people to understand what they're doing, what their purpose is. And now we're taking a game that you have not developed on, that is basically finished, that it has a ton of developers already on it. You have to now learn all the code. You have to learn every aspect of that game, the lore, the way that they code things, the way that the game operates, what the goals are. There's so much that you have to learn before you can actually be a substantial boon for the company.
When they bring on some of the new developers, they are often quite young. And no offense to young people, but a lot of the best devs and the seasoned veterans, the ones that usually have enough experience or knowledge, well, those are beginning to get thin, as many of them have left to other companies. So the anonymous source speaks quite contrary to a lot of the public messaging that we're getting from Blizzard. If you pay close attention, multiple Blizzard devs in the chats, live streams, BlizzCon line, the blog posts say how they've doubled the size of the team, increased, way bigger than they've ever been before, but at the same time, they're admitting publicly as well that the workload they had was too much. It really sucks that the developers have to be themselves the marketing mouthpiece for the game as well. So they sort of have to tell the lies that Bobby Kotick would want them to tell. Keep in mind.
Come on, man. Come on. They don't have to. They don't have to. They choose to. The thing is that I don't know how a game development company works, or how it is interlaced with the you know, the salespeople, the publishers, all the people at the top who don't have that creative force or don't have the know-how in creating a video game. Basically your sales reps, your marketing guys, your, you know, CEOs, the people who handle the business side of things, or handle the money, versus the creative side of things, the developers. I don't know how much they have as far as when they work together, or what the inner workings at Blizzard is. But it's disingenuous to say that they're, you know, telling these lies because they have to, because Bobby Kotick wants them to. And that's just a heap of shit. That's a heap of bullshit. Come on, dude. Game developers, from my experience, oftentimes are disconnected from the marketing. While I'm sure that they do see it, or they do see the things, or they hear these things through the grapevine or by the water cooler, I don't think that that's the case. I think that they have a small fraction of the vision, because they only work on this small part in this massive team. Say you have like 30 programmers. Well, you're only one programmer out of that 30 programmers. You're not going to have the full picture. You just have a good idea of where the game is supposed to go, where it's supposed to be, and you focus on that one small portion of the game. At least common sense. I'm sure that they hear things, they talk to other people. You obviously have friend circles, but as far as what your function is, and just to relate this to, you know, sales and marketing, I'm typically, when I go into a business to fix a business, I am the sales manager and the marketing manager, because I have inner workings of both. However, when I speak to my sales team, they usually don't know anything about marketing. They don't know what we're doing or why we're doing it. They don't have any idea. They don't know which direction we're going, even if we do explain it to them. They just know, how can I make more money? How can I sell this product? How can I push this product? How can I do that? They only know their job. And that's why you have multiple different sections of a business as far as employment goes, or different skill sets. These developers probably only know what they know, and they're just repeating what they know, or what they've heard, or what have you.
mind, this is the same guy that would reportedly write verbatim the responses that his figureheads would say in response to the lawsuits. So you really have to be careful absorbing any of the PR speak from anyone at Blizzard as if it's them speaking themselves. No. They're speaking.
Again, disingenuous. You got to be careful, or it's not disingenuous. It's true. You have to be careful with what any game developer says, or not game developer, but publisher. Anybody who is not part of the main components of your leadership, your head developer, or like your Ian from Warcraft, or your Yoko Taro from who came up with the Nier Automata series. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and then there's stockholders that you have to appease. So you have to get them hyped up to start investing, or to invest more into your company, to not sell off all the stock. The marketing in the video game industry likes to make promises because it's so easy for a game developer to walk back that promise when they release their game, because we still buy it. And that's where you get the Cyberpunk 2077. That's where you get Overwatch 2. That's where you get World of Warcraft. That's where you get, it's a lot of Blizzard games. It's where you get Destiny 2, base game Destiny 2. Or Destiny 1, which felt very empty when they cut a lot of things out. Or Halo Infinite. There's a lot of things that No Man's Sky. It keeps coming to me. There's a lot of things that developers promise to get everybody hyped up. Or not developers, game publishers, marketers promise. And I think that is a marketing sin, is to make promises. It's a marketing sin in general to make promises and to basically sell a lemon. And I definitely think that because of the lack of a PvE mode, which was promised, the removal of a game that we purchased, being, Overwatch 1, into a game that's basically the same in all aspects, except there's less CC and there's one person missing. Removing the benefits of purchasing Overwatch 1, outside of you have all the base characters from Overwatch 1, instead of now getting the new heroes for free, you still have to buy the battle pass and then work your way up to that new hero. I think that that is false advertisement, and I do think that there should be a class action lawsuit put against Blizzard for that. I think that game companies, or rather game publishers, need to be held accountable for the things that they say in their marketing.
Speaking for Bobby, so they talk about the team size expanding, but does that mean part-time work? Does that mean the commissioned artists that they have to churn out the skins content for the game, that you have to imagine they pay less than a full-time employee? You're not really going to pin them down on any logically congruent storyline, because somehow they both want us to believe that the team is massive, big, and capable, but also they have to apologize for canceling the massive, big project that they had, and instead transferring all their energy to something that is lower on production cost and a higher return on investment, as opposed.
Which again, like, can you fault them? And it also comes down to, do you want your PvE game or your PvP game to take the hit? Do you want the player base who doesn't care about the PvE to take the hit? So there's a lot of consequences to them making a PvE mode for this game. And it would be a live service mode as well. So now you have players who have, say you enjoy both aspects of the game. Well, now you're paying for a live service on the PvE and you're paying for the live service on the PvP, and it becomes this really weird juggling act. Bah.
To making a wonderful game that will build the franchise's IP strength overall. No, Bobby doesn't like that. He likes profit margins, small investment, big payoff. instead of a bigger investment and also a big payoff. No. The amount of profit is all that matters. Another contradiction from the anonymous leak, they said a lot of the developers left when the...
Yeah. When you own a business, when you are beholden to stockholders, when you don't develop video games yourself or make video game development decisions as far as, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had double jump here? Yeah, that's all you care about is profits. That makes sense. That's not something that's bad. That's not a bad thing. That is true in not just gaming, but everywhere. It's just, it happens to be that it's very true in Hollywood, by the way. Movies have been corporatized so far. Just look at anything Disney has touched. But when you look at any business or any corporation in general, they're all set up very much the same way. Yeah, profits are everything to Bobby Kotick, and I can't fault him for that. I do think that it sucks for the consumer. I do think that a lot of the negativity towards video games is spoken by a very small few. I think people who are satisfied and content with their purchase or their game or the game that they're playing is typically silent. I don't think that they speak as loudly as that small few who are upset. So I do, and that's why when people are like, oh yeah, let's boycott this, or let's speak with our money, or let's ruin their bottom line, or what have you, it never works because most people are satisfied with this. Onto the video.
The work from home policy was enacted, meaning that employees had to actually live near the Blizzard campus where it's very expensive. This is directly in contrary to Jared Ness, who says the opposite publicly. But again, I feel like this is a case where Blizzard's PR speak tries to have it both ways. Did people quit because of the work from home? If they did, that would ultimately have a significant effect on your productivity, no? And if the team...
All right, so that does bother me, and it is a pain to see that happen to anybody in any business, and I do think that a lot of businesses have failed to see that your human capital is your most important capital. Meh. Your human capital is your most important capital. And to treat them like dog shit or to not give them better standards of living, especially when you are raking in so much money from the work that they are producing or that means of production, it really is, it's sad to see. It's sad to see that. I look to a company like FromSoft, who also has, a lot of crunch and to get their games out. But the way that the developers on those games talk about, that they understand it, it's the way of life, but they enjoy making that game. They want to crunch it. They want to do these things. And it just goes to how the living situation is when you have passion behind your project, when you have passion from a leader like Miyazaki, and you are putting that consumer first and putting your vision of a game before anything. That's why they don't have those easy modes in their game, is because it's their vision, it's their game. If you want to play a game with an easy mode, go play a different game. This game's not for you. And they understand that, and they have made masterpiece after masterpiece after masterpiece, and their developers are still happy. Then you go and look at Blizzard, and you see it just falling apart from the inside out, from these new developers who sadly are naive in their thinking as far as what the workforce is all about. They go and they get their degrees, or they go and they bust their ass to learn how to program, to learn how to develop a video game, to learn the systems like Unreal Engine or Blender or any of these different editing tools or Unity. And then they get put into these situations where they just are shit on. Everybody just shits on them, and they have to work their way so fucking hard to get ahead, to get to that next position, to get further into their career. And I feel like Blizzard just fucking closes that door on them, and it's horrible. It's horrible. Anyways, back to the video.
Is big and capable. Well, where's the product for it? It really sucks to have these developers speak on the behalf of the company and feed us these lies that just don't add up. But ultimately, we know who to blame. It should have been no surprise to anyone. The anonymous source goes on to say something that I think we all know, is that the devs really just did the best with what they were given. And as they've said publicly, developing the talent trees for every single hero in the game was an insane proposition. I almost wonder if they would have been better off just like taking 8 heroes or so and making that game first just with them, because from Reddit response,
yeah, that would have made a lot more sense. But then you also have that feels bad moment where you're like, well, Genji's not in this and I play Genji, or oh, I want to play Brigitte but she's not in this, and that's who I connect with, that's who I like to play, and that would just lower the sales numbers on this particular game. So yeah, that's a shitty outcome. But again, like I said earlier in this video, I don't think the PvE would have been good for this game. Back to the video.
From the devs, they've told us that it was easier to design a brand new hero for PvP than to do the skill trees, which had all these different options for PvE, even though it doesn't have to be as balanced. Somewhere between 30 and 50 talents for each hero in the game. That's an insane amount of content, especially when you think of like an action RPG. I'm thinking Diablo, Borderlands 3. There's only a handful of characters in the game, and they span off into a few skill trees, but it's not so much.
It would have been one thing if they had began with the PvE and added onto it as time went, but they didn't do that. But they had done it that way, I think that it would have been an easier transition. But again, they canceled Project Titan because they could not figure out how to get the PvE to be engaging, to be fun, and that was Blizzard's way of saying, yeah, you know, we're throwing in the towel. And then they were able to salvage the PvP out of it, which kudos to them. They created an awesome first-person shooter, which is, I mean, it's still going strong today. I could still pop on and get into a queue and pop into a game right away. It's just they have now been developing Overwatch 2 for years. And they have all these characters with these distinct personalities and these distinct things that they do. And now they're creating a PvE around all of these characters because everybody plays someone different. It's a little bit harder to do. Again, the other way around is a lot easier, but in reverse, this is a much bigger project. And that's why I said they should just create a whole new IP, or at least create a game around, you know, maybe a handful of characters and say this is their story, like an Overwatch Origins or Overwatch Tracer or Overwatch Reinhardt, and you play as that character, and that character this is their story, this is their world, and not make it a live service game. Making it into a live service game is where you run into those issues. That's just personal opinion there. Back to the video.
Much more than the amount that they're saying there. If they did try to do that game, it would have been the biggest action RPG type game of all time. So it's really heartbreaking to see them not be given the resources to make that game of the decade that it could have been. But it makes sense.
Come on. It's not the game of the decade. It wouldn't have been. It would have been a slapped on PvE, live action, or live action. I don't know why I keep saying live action. Last Action Hero, live service game that would be it's an afterthought. It's an afterthought because the game wasn't designed around that. And going back to my comments about FromSoft sticks to their guns. Doesn't matter how many times people ask for an easy mode, there are no easy modes in their fucking games. They just don't have them. There might be an Armored Core because Armored Core is a different game and it's a different IP and it's not an IP that they own. But when it comes to an IP that they own, they stick to their guns. They do not shift. They don't bend. While Elden Ring did an awesome job in incorporating an easy mode by allowing you to go and experience the world before jumping into the main content and trivializing that main content, that was their answer to an easy mode. It was still not easy, and a lot of people still did not complete Elden Ring. But I think it was the easiest game to jump into for FromSoft. To this day, I have not beat Sekiro because it's so fucking hard. But I still, every 3-4 months, I re-download it and I jump back in and try to learn the systems and get better at it. And I probably kill a boss and then it's the next boss. It's a great game, but I just haven't beat it. I beat all the Dark Souls. I beat all the Elden Ring, or all the Elden Ring. I beat Elden Ring. I beat Demon Souls back when it first released. I think it's a good decision, and I know I'm like one of the very few people out there who think this. I think it's a good decision that they did not commit to this PvE product. It would have been lackluster. It would have not been the game of the decade. This is content creators hype things up like this, and it's bullshit. It's bullshit to hype it up like that. It's not. It would have never. It would have been probably a good to great game, but it wouldn't be Breath of the Wild. It wouldn't have been Final Fantasy Shadowbringers. It wouldn't have been Guild Wars 2. It wouldn't have been World of Warcraft. It would not have been the game of the decade. Sorry to break it to you. Back to the video.
Sense when you think to the way that Activision Blizzard King runs all of their IP. Candy Crush, Call of Duty, they want Overwatch to be like that, and it needs to be a different game if they wanted to make a real game instead of a cash flip with low investment requirement and high return on investment, aka milking out IPs and giving,
aka business in general. This is why we go to China to make our iPhones. This is why China makes our Nikes.
the least amount of product for the most amount of money. It's a really unfortunate business strategy because if you look at a game like World of Warcraft, which is just outrageously massive, Overwatch 2 could have been the next thing.
No. Project Titan was the original idea for Overwatch. And it was scrapped for reasons. Like, clear reasons. World of Warcraft is massive, but how much of it is relevant? Not only has it had years of development on each expansion, each patch, each content patch, it is only as strong or as big as its current patch, because the current content patch is the only thing that's relevant in World of Warcraft. Just sad. Whereas games like Final Fantasy 14 and Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 2 having that horizontal progression and having the freedom to choose what you do makes all of the content relevant. Final Fantasy has its own way of making older content relevant by whenever you queue up for a dungeon, you can queue up into that older content and play with people who are, playing the game for the first time and going through their journey, going through their story, and then offering you rewards for your current level or your current patch. So there's definitely ways to make older content relevant. World of Warcraft uses time walking to make older content relevant, and then obviously the PvP has older content that's relevant. You're still playing in Warsong Gulch, which came out in 2005. World of Warcraft is not as massive as you would think it is. A lot of it gets scrapped on the new patch, on the new expansion. And that's the way it is. Anyways, let's go.
It could have reached towards the MMO aspirations that Aaron Keller talked about in the dev blog in my previous video. It could have reached that size of game. But at the moment, the best thing we're going to get is like a full campaign in like years of time, which I suppose is better than nothing, but it's nowhere near the artistic vision of what these devs wanted to do. And that's...
No, Project Titan was scrapped for a reason. I remember watching a video a long time ago, and I think it was Mark Morheim who said it, that the only MMO that could kill World of Warcraft would be if they killed it with their own MMO, which is arrogant. didn't age well, but man, it was a G moment. Honestly, it was. I'm not sure who said that, so don't quote me on that. But basically, they're like, yeah, nobody's gonna beat World of Warcraft unless we do it. That being said, would you want to create two products that would compete with itself? Would you want to create competition with your own game? No. And the reason being is, both games would then need a player base to survive, a substantial player base to survive. And you would end up, when you split your player base like that, you would end up killing one or even both of the games when they're clashing and competing for people's wallets. So no, you wouldn't want Overwatch to be an MMO unless you have full intention to backburner one of your previous MMO. Even though they are vastly different games. One's a first-person shooter. One is a theme park MMO with RPG elements. I don't think that it would be a good move to have player bases split like that, or competing for their attention. Anyways,
where I want to transition to talk about Jeff Kaplan, where it's blatantly obvious now that he was not signing up for any more of this ATVI BS. And while you guys know I had a lot of philosophical differences with Jeff over the years, I'll be straight up, the guy just did not like me at all. I was a thorn in his side for years, but I always respected the man's integrity and artistic vision and very unique route to arriving to a competitive multiplayer game that was unlike any other.
True.
Because Jeff worked on the WoW team for so many years, and as Aaron Keller said in his blog post, the team were WoW devs. They thought of things in more of the...
True, until the announcement of Overwatch 2 and the promises he made.
Magical player immersion point of view, whereas other competitive titles, let's say Valorant, are all about the competition every step of the way, which does have its benefits, I will admit, but you can see the weaknesses clear as day. The characters are less defined, they often aren't as imaginative or intuitive. So over the years, I had to grow a level of respect for the alternate route that guys like Jeff Kaplan or the now former lead hero designer Jeff Goodman would take to design. They look to maximize the fun first and worry about the competitive viability later. It gave us the GOATS meta we were trapped in, but it also gave us 2016's Game of the Year. So I tend to take the good with the bad. Now let's look back to quotes from the 2019 announcement of Overwatch 2.
All true.
Keep in mind that many of us believe that this was pushed out the door because Bobby Kotick wanted to change the news cycle surrounding BlizzCon with growing controversy over the Blitzchung incident. So they had to come out with the big announcement then, even though it's pretty clear in hindsight they weren't really ready to do so. On stage, Jeff explained the endlessly replayable missions that they called hero missions, and he said it's what adventure mode...
That's weird. That's a weird, just thinking about it. That's yes, I can see that being a thing where you do something bad, but you distract somebody with something good. Like, oh, hey, but look over there. It's Johnny Depp. Don't pay attention to me, even though I just robbed this bank. But at the same time, with like short memory and everything, because that's really what it is you see a lot of companies make guffaws and or gaffs or however it's pronounced, whatever. They fuck up, and then you see them not really say anything about it, and then 2 years later you have Rainbow Six Siege being one of the most popular shooters out there because silently Ubisoft fixed it over time, and they didn't really address any of the controversy. Now Blizzard's controversy is fucking just one controversy after another, because the higher ups, the people above the developers, the publishers, the people who bring in the money are disconnected from the consumer, and that's an issue. Back to the video.
Is to Diablo. It was aimed to have a progression system with custom abilities and talents. Then he went on to explain that they wanted to redefine the sequel. And this is where I always thought it was very tone deaf to speak this way, because while Jeff was trapped at Activision Blizzard, where they're used to sequel churn like Call of Duty coming out every year, losing all of the progress, cosmetics, and everything to play a different game year on year, the rest of the industry had already changed to free to play.
Not to mention it splits your player base when you're doing that, because some people just couldn't afford the yearly release of Call of Duty, or like you would have like half the player base still playing Call of Duty 4, and then the other half of the player base playing Call of Duty 4.2, Modern Warfare 2. So it was, I hated that. I hated the yearly release. You didn't see anything new come from each release. It held the developers back, it held the creativity back. People still bought it, so people were still happy with that franchise until they weren't. And it took years and years and years for that to happen. Then they reinvigorated it, and they added Warzone, and now people love Call of Duty again. Anyways.
In 2019, Fortnite was the biggest game in the world, and at the start of that year, Apex Legends launched. So we had two games destroying Overwatch at the same time, which were free to play and had all of the benefits Jeff was talking about for the sequel already free in the game. So Jeff wanted his sequel to bring all of the old players along with, so you could keep all your cosmetics and you'd still be able to play with the new players in Overwatch 2. We never really got the full explanation of what that meant because it didn't make any sense, but
intentionally vague. I don't think he knew what it meant. I mean, there's a possibility. I'm not like an inside source in Blizzard, but I'm sure that he had a rough idea of what he wanted, and they were coming up with ways on how can we do this, but he had to make an announcement about it from some higher up. I'm sure that there was a lot to do there in this, which is why people would be vague when announcing something. I'm sure he also didn't want to tarnish his own name. Jeff Kaplan, I have a lot of respect for.
Over the years, we're able to stitch it together, and what it was going to be is that the PvP would just get updated, and the PvE would be an entirely separate Diablo game, essentially, with its own campaign and endgame. And you would pay for that new experience, but you could also just stick to PvP if you wanted. They would be separate. That was always a competitive disadvantage, though, because at Activision Blizzard, they were a bit in a bubble with the box product model being so profitable for them. The writing was on the wall even at that point. If the rest of the industry was on the box product model, then yeah, that would have been revolutionary. But with so many free-to-play games already robbing attention from Overwatch, that was going to be doomed to fail. And think about this from Jeff Kaplan's point of view. He gets to be the scapegoat that goes on stage to overpromise this massive game that they're trying to make, that Aaron Keller
like I said, he had his own name at stake here, and yeah, that sucks. It sucks for him. It sucks for him to be the guy who goes up there and announces his version of Diablo Immortal. At least he didn't say, do you guys have phones?
cleared up on how audacious the vision of this was. That not only did Jeff want that, each hero having 30 to 50 talents in a PvE endlessly replayable Diablo game, behind the scenes, they wanted another higher, bigger game, a MMO game over that after they made.
Yeah. They wanted to basically turn into Destiny. which I just don't think works in the Overwatch model. Destiny has 3 classes to choose from, and then within that class you have subspecs. This would have like 16 heroes, and it's just way too much. It would be a balancing nightmare. There is such thing as doing too much, and I do believe that a lot of these over promises, and you can tell when something is being over promised when they're saying we're adding 5 million different things that you could do into this game, and it's all going to be great, and it's all going to be the best stuff that you could do. And then you have Cyberpunk 2077, which couldn't deliver on those promises because it was just too much. It's just too much. Keep it simple. Keep the design of your game simple. Focus on one aspect, build on that aspect. And then over time, as you release more content, release more things with the game, you can add more and more content or more things to do or more concepts to the game. But as far as an initial game, when they promise the world, you just know that it's going to be a crock of shit. When they promise the world, they're super vague. It's a crock of shit. Just like in sales, marketing is the same way. Keep it simple, stupid.
Made Overwatch 2. That's what Overwatch 3 was going to be. So at some point in the company, based on the leaks that we know from Sir Swag, they're looking at the numbers of all of this and how Jeff wants to scale this up, and I'm assuming a suit said no. In fact, I'll give you less resources. Good luck doing whatever you want. It always felt odd to me because Jeff Kaplan was vice president of Blizzard Entertainment, but I think
this video is really well done. But I think he's taking a lot of liberties here. A lot of liberties here on things that he doesn't know for 100% certainty. He is making a lot of assumptions here. I'm trying to not make as many assumptions. I'm asking more questions as far as like what I think could have happened. And I'm blatantly, like, everything that I've said so far could be just wrong. I could just be completely in left field. But I do think that this video is taking a lot of liberties in explaining these things, like what happened behind the scenes, because the only people who know what happened behind the scenes are the people who were present, the people who were there, the people in that room. And unless Jeff comes out and just says, yeah, everything here was true, a suit told me no, like,
as the coverage of the lawsuit and everything has gone on, we all know that there's really just one king at Activision Blizzard. It's Bobby. Every other position of leadership just seems to be a token. And hey, I mean, vice president was already probably a token position, but it felt strange that he couldn't have more pull to get what he wanted. But adding everything up now in hindsight, I think Jeff was looking down the barrel of the change of strategy that was being pushed on.
I don't think Jeff was the greatest salesperson in the world, and probably navigating the effects of talking to your CEO was probably not Jeff's strong suit, because there's a lot of convincing that has to be done as far as like what Jeff's mindset would, or not Jeff, but what Bobby's mindset would be profit. And then you're coming in here and saying, hey, this would be fun. Yeah, how does that translate? You know, there's a lot of different things as far as Jeff's personality goes. I think that he might not have been able to convince Bobby Kotick to change his ways or change his perspective on something. I think that Jeff Kaplan, bottom line, he just wants to make fun video games. He wants to develop fun video games. That's what he wants to do. So the foil to that ideology is the person who doesn't develop games, who's not a creative force, who just looks at games as a means to an end in profitability. Their idea isn't necessarily to make fun games. They're not innovative. They don't want to innovate. They don't want to take risks. They want to just do what works and have an Ubisoft game, have another Assassin's Creed with towers to climb, or every game that follows the Ubisoft model in open world, have a bunch of little distractions pinging up on the map. It's, if it works and makes you money, just keep doing that. It's a lot easier than taking a risk. And that's a shame. That's a shame. However, I do think that I want to correct myself a little bit here. I do think that they do work hand in hand, because then you have a game like Ashes of Creation that doesn't have that person or that publisher that says, hey, pick fucking 2 things, run with it, let's make this game and get it out. Let's create the core of the game and let's get it out. Let's get it into people's hands. Let's make money off of it. Creativity can then just keep going, and then we never get to play the game. We never get to have our hands on that game. We never get to play the core build, because things just keep getting added on. And it's like, hey, wouldn't this be fun? Wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't this be fun? Let's do this. Let's add this. Hey, I love that New World did this. Hey, I love that this other game did that. Let's go ahead and add that in our game. Wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Without saying, hey, whoa, pump the fucking brakes. What is the purpose of this game? So publishers can be good in that aspect, but in stifling creativity is also something that they're really good at.
Onto him from top down, seeing everything that he wanted to build be reduced to rubble, and Jeff has to sit there and think, does he want to have to come out again and give this massive apology that he shouldn't have to make? I don't think Jeff would have wanted to lie to us and say that PvE is coming, and then months later down the line explain that it's in this diminished capacity after he had just years ago on stage promised the world. I can see why he'd want to leave for that. Let someone else.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Jeff he's a massive name in the industry. And one of those reasons that he's a massive name in the industry is not only that he worked on World of Warcraft, but he was honest about most things that he said. I can't really pinpoint too many things that he lied about other than this big fiasco, which I don't think he was necessarily lying. I just think that he didn't know the full picture, because they might have still been in early development. So they had a lot of ideas and he just mismanaged his words, or, you know, somebody else wrote what he needed to say in bullet points, like, hey, make sure you cover this, this, and that. Promise this, promise that. And maybe he was also drawn into the hype himself. He was excited to make this game, only to be told no. Fucking handcuff him to the fucking pipe on the side of the building or some shit. Say, no, you can't go that far. No, we're shutting it down. No, we're diminishing this. No, you know. Yeah, that's heartbreaking. That can destroy someone's name too. It's not cool. Anyways.
Have to tell those lies. He was not going to walk the plank. Because while I have been on board for the free-to-play change, expensive cosmetics, I don't mind paying a battle pass because I like the content I get in it. I enjoy it more than loot boxes. I like the seasonal model.
I do enjoy it more than loot boxes, but I don't enjoy this. I like how League of Legends does free-to-play. I like how they give you an option to be able to obtain everything for free by giving you a currency for different things in the game, or you have your little loot boxes, which you can then disintegrate into a different currency so you could buy the thing that you actually want, or you could just go in and just buy it. Everything that you can get outside of the I don't know if they've changed it, but they had these little green shards that you would get that you could use to purchase skins that were not available in the shop or in any loot boxes or anything like that. You just got lucky with those gemstones, like the Soul Stealer Vayne skin, basically all the discontinued skins. And then they also offer their own version of a battle pass, which means you can go in and get basically a chroma for a skin that wouldn't be available who did purchase the battle pass unless they really fucking grinded it out. So you have so League of Legends does it right. Hey, I don't want to roll for loot boxes. I'm just going to buy it outright. hey, I enjoy this battle pass idea. I like getting a bunch of free stuff that I can see a clear objective path. I play this game a lot. Yeah, I'm going to buy the battle pass. They give you basically every option under the sun to get what you want out of the game. And Riot crushes it in that field. Then they went and made Valorant, and it fucking blew my brains out.
I like the update cycle we have. I even will probably like the campaign. So it's not even really necessarily any of these decisions that I hate. Because I never needed a Diablo game for Overwatch, because Diablo 4 was coming anyway. I like Diablo 4. I'll play Diablo 4 for Diablo. The thing that
like I said, the game was made for PvP players. So like, even coming from this guy who is talking about this, even coming from this guy, he didn't have a problem with there not being a PvE in the game, because he was a PvP. He bought the game for the 5-on-5 action or the 6-on-6 action, or competitive mode. So like, why even commit resources to a different aspect of the game when most of your player base who has been playing for years continues to play the game ain't about that life?
that I can't stand is the bait and switch, is the lying, is the thought that maybe I bought more skins thinking they were still making that big game that they did not tell us they have canceled when they knew they canceled it before they even launched Overwatch 2. They flew creators out like myself to show us all the amazing things they were doing for PvP. And when we kept nagging them, especially me, by the way, the most annoying of any of the creators, asking the hardest questions behind the scenes always, with only a few other of my peers that even come close to how much I hold Blizzard's feet to the fire, we kept nagging about PvE, and we never got a response. I don't think I've ever used a cuss word on this channel. Fuck you, Blizzard. Fuck you. Fuck you for lying to my face and to all of our other creators, getting us on board with a strategy that you were not disclosing fully the changes and downgrades you were making. I am never...
I respect that. I respect this. Sir, I respect you. Yeah.
Trusting another thing you say ever again, because I will have to admit, I was lured by the personality and goodwill from the people who are working on the front lines, but fooled into believing that they speak genuinely. They often do, but they also speak PR speak for Bobby Kotick like everyone else does at that company, and you can't expect anything more from that. I am beyond irate about how we, as the entire community, have been treated by Bobby Kotick. It's been his fault the entire way through.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. He's definitely anti-consumer, but the guy knows how to run a business. He knows how to make a business profitable. I don't think that he is the end all be all on the decision making. I think it goes through, because like a corporation is a bunch of people at the top. It's not just one person. There's a figurehead. He is the leader, your CEO. But then you have your COO, and then you have your CFO, and then you have your CMO, and then you have all these different executive officers at the top. It's a group of people. It's a collective of people. I don't think to place the blame solely on one person, but though his leadership is definitely a part of that. Not trying to defend him. I think he is. I think that. I said it before. I think publishers like Activision are they're anti-creativity. They're anti-innovation. They don't necessarily care about the consumer as much as they should. And that's why we're seeing such popularity come from companies that do, like FromSoft and a lot of these indie developers, like the guys who make Hades. I don't know their name though. But we're seeing these smaller indie companies also grow and become massive and gain a ton of popularity, is because they are more focused on the consumer.
Through
or even Riot. I mean, minus. Some people like the Valorant shit. I don't like that it costs that much to buy a skin. But then again, if I wanted to buy a knife skin in CSGO, some of those knives are like $1,000+. And I can only purchase it outright from another player who happened to get lucky in a loot box roll. I think that Riot does care about their consumers based off of League of Legends, even though like everybody can complain about, oh yeah, they don't have a balance. Oh right, balance changes. Yeah, they're balancing 136 fucking champions. That's near impossible to do, but they do a solid job in keeping it as close to rounded out as they can. Riot is the new Blizzard. Back in the day, Blizzard Entertainment was just notorious for just putting out banger after banger after banger after banger. Every game was top notch. Every game was super fun. Every game was amazing, and it sold well. And I think when Riot created League of Legends, and even, you know, we take a look at Arcane or Teamfight Tactics, or Arcane's not a game, but you could see the level of quality and care that they have for the League universe and for the player base who recognizes that universe and loves these characters and wants to see these characters on screen. They took special consideration for those people. They care about their players. I know 10 owns them, and that's 10. But it's still, I still think that Riot just goes above and beyond most major companies. Yeah, back to the video.
And the leaks just keep compounding. If you remember leaks from a while ago from an associate producer that went to Riot Games saying that Bobby Kotick would come down after telling the dev team to work on one big direction and switch gears entirely, ruining progress. Now on top of it, we have leaks saying that they would cut resources and make the project doomed to fail by having ridiculous expectations funded by starvation resource tactics. I'll end this rant today by reminding you Jeff Kaplan's final response before leaving the company, written almost as if it was on a napkin in lowercase. Jeff's final personal note, he says, "I'm leaving Blizzard Entertainment after 19 amazing years. It was truly the honor of a lifetime to have the opportunity to create worlds and heroes for such a passionate audience. I want to express my deep appreciation to everyone at Blizzard who supported our games, our game teams, and our players. But I want to say a special thanks to the wonderful game developers that shared in the journey of creation with me. Never accept the world as it appears to be. Always dare to see it for what it could be. I hope you do the same. GG, Jeffrey Kaplan."
And that's why I love Jeff Kaplan. I mean, I don't love him. I'm not like gonna go and fucking suck him off or anything, but get on our horses and ride off into the sunset, live our wildest dreams. But like he's a game developer first. He cared about his games. He cared about the teams that he worked on. He cared about the players who enjoyed the creations that he made. And that's huge. Like I a lot of respect there. There's a lot of respect there for me, for this guy. And he even took the heat many times for failures or shortcomings on, you know, Overwatch or World of Warcraft or many other projects in Blizzard. He was just an all-around pretty good dude, and it's sad to see him go. It is sad to see him go. But yes, I want to, so I'm someone, yeah, I'm going to just finish the video and then I'll say my piece.
And of course, a notable exemption here, the silence on certain aspects of the company is deafening, supporting his developers as he always did, and very clearly throwing shade at the suits that sabotaged his dream project, so much so that he was willing to leave it. After being one of the longest running developers at the company, who helped build the skyrocketing World of Warcraft and transitioned into another team to work on Project Titan, which eventually transformed into Overwatch. And I can't help but imagine if Bobby Kotick was willing to pay himself less and the talented people making the things that make him all that money more, if we could have just had more wonderful things. Overwatch 1 was a beacon of hope in the game.
All right. Not everybody is Tom Brady. Tom Brady is well known for taking pay cuts to have a better team around him, which would then lead to more wins. He had enough money. His wife has a lot of money, or Giselle, or whatever her name is. Giselle has a lot of money. So he was willing to take pay cuts for his team. And that's a mark of a true leader. But most people would not say, yeah, I want to take a pay cut. Name off your hand 5 people in your life that want to take a pay cut. It's just, it's not common. Anybody else that you ask, nobody wants to take a pay cut. That doesn't feel good. Even if you make way more money than you should, who are we to say you make too much money? Who are you and I to say you make too much money, dude? Who determines that? Anyways, let's go.
Industry when there was a lot of also rand type shooter games out. Overwatch 2 was supposed to be the walk, as Aaron Keller describes it. Instead, as we know, that vision will never be realized at this pace, at the level of commitment that Bobby Kotick is willing to give this dev team. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.
Overall, I think this was a good video. I am going to give it a like. I'll also have it linked in the description below. I'll even hit him with a subscribe. I think he makes some good valid points, but I do think that there's a lot of assumptions here that's being made, or a lack of knowledge on how companies in general work and how they become profitable. And the parts that each piece in your company plays. While there are a lot of points that I agree with him, I think that there are a lot of assumptions. I did say I want to get back to something here.
It was truly the honor of a lifetime.
I feel like I got bait and switched. Why did he, what was the leak? Why did he actually leave? What was the actual reason he left? I guess I'll have to watch the other video. I am someone who oftentimes gets in trouble for the perception of the way I am. I'm not like saying I walk around, you know, looking like a thug, even though the channel name is ThugBooty. I have been a victim of what a lot of people phrase as perception is reality. And in fact, a long time ago, before when I was learning Google Ads, one of my managers came up to me and he said he believed all these rumors about me and that perception was reality, and he thought I was a piece of shit until he started to be my manager. And then he learned who I am, what I am, and that I just accidentally get put in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it was just an unfortunate circumstance because I just kind of float around, whatever, all that bullshit. But he said that in this case, perception was not reality. And I do think that there's a lot here when you have little bits of information being leaked, or little bits of this and that, or, hey, I saw Bobby Kotick come down and say these things, or to shut this down, or whatever. We don't know the entire inner workings, and I'm sure that that person who perceived that probably didn't know the inner workings either. And it could be far more devious than we even know, or it could be not as much as we know. Again, the only people who know these things are the people who are acting on it, or who are in that room to begin with. I think there is a lot of bullshit in Blizzard. I think that they have grown too big and it stifles creativity. There's a few people at the top who are trying to steer this massive ship in the right direction while appeasing a multitude of variables like their stockholders, making profitable games so that their company can live and continue to live. and filling up their own wallets, as is the goal of anybody who makes anything, is typically to fill up their own wallets. As far as their marketing goes for Overwatch 2, I do think, I'm no legal expert or anything, but as far as being held accountable, I think that they need to be held accountable. And I do think that at this point, the legal system should step in for false advertising or whatever legal mumbo jumbo is there, because at the end of the day, everything that they've done just hurt the end user. Everything that they promised just hurt the end user. They lied about so much. But yeah, that's all I got for you today. This is like my first actual reaction video outside of the Armored Core 6 trailer, which was just, hey, check this out. Pretty good video. Check it out. It's in the description. It's by Your Overwatch. And yeah, if you like this reaction, let me know. Later.